Hi there, my name is Will, and I'm just going to walk you through a couple of frequently asked questions we've seen in the data engineering Zoomcamp. Now, we've seen a number of people who've got a little bit confused by which image they're supposed to use for Kestra. You should be using the default latest image for this, which will have the most up-to-date parts of Kestra that are publicly released. Some of you might be running the develop image, which looks like this. If you're running that, you might run into some bugs as this gets updated every single day. So if you're finding that you're running into a couple of unexpected bugs or things aren't making sense, double check that you're not running this on develop, you're running it on latest. And when you are then running that again, make sure that you put pull set to always so it will pull a new image down. So when you rerun your Kestra instance, when you do docker compose up, put -- pull and then always like so, and this is now going to force it to pull a brand new image, making sure it's getting the correct one rather than just staying on a cached one that you were previously using that contained bugs. On the topic of container images, make sure the database that you're using for the Postgres examples is using at least version 15 or higher, because we are using the merge feature, which is not available in earlier versions. So if you're running into some issues with the merge feature, make sure that you set your database to 15 or higher. I'm using 16.6 in the examples in the videos. Something else worth noting is from module 1, when you set up your database in Docker Compose and you set up pgadmin by default is using 8080, which is the same port that Kestra uses. So what I would recommend is changing this port number to something like 8085, or maybe putting a 1 in front of it so it's 18080, so that you can make sure it's very different to Kestra. Otherwise, you'll run into issues where Kestra will spin up and it will say port in use. Same for if you're already running a database here and the Kestra database starts running, then what you need to do is either in your Kestra configuration, make sure that the port isn't exposed. So as you can see here, I have no port defined here. This is only accessible by Kestra. So that's the first thing. Or make sure that you're running them on different ports too. And just to clarify, Kestra uses both 8080, but there's some additional services running on 8081. So make sure you don't use either of those for pgadmin, because you will run into a number of issues. My last bit of advice for you is if you are running into a number of issues trying to use the same database from the first exercise, what I would recommend is using the video examples I provided. I have got a Docker Compose here that's a little bit different to the module 1.1, but the videos will definitely work with this. So if you're having issues, try running this one as well. I'd also recommend that you keep the Kestra database separate. I've seen a number of people try and complicate things by running everything on one database. The intention of running them on separate ones means that Kestra that will generate loads of tables won't get in the way and confuse things. It also prevents the risk of you accidentally modifying something on the Kestra side. So let Kestra run its own Postgres database and then create a separate one for the exercises. It's okay to run separate databases. In fact, it's almost a good practice because it allows you to keep data isolated from one another, especially when they're not relevant to each other. So I'd recommend keeping the Postgres database for Kestra as it is in the Docker Compose, and running Kestra completely independently, and then spinning up your own separate Docker Compose for your database like you did in module 1. And here's what it looks like for the examples I did in Kestra.